we take a fourth and final look at Yukon. Slick and Shiny Productions once more stumbles our way through a maze of digital nonsense to take you back to the days of yesteryear in Yukon. This is Yukon from the air. This part up here we've already seen previously. This is what I think of as the old coal patch. That's the part of the town that was built by the coal company, Westmoreland Coal. This time we're going to see things down this way. This is a map that I put together from sources from the courthouse. What I call the coal patch is up this way. You know, it's like it's off this map to the north. This is oriented with the north to the top, which is traditional style for orienting maps. And the first map we'll see will come from the top and down to around this area down here. This up here shows the little church up here on the street, and we're going to come down here. This is the old school right here, and we'll see this territory in here. Okay. This mapping is from 1916. It's hard to believe that 1916 is more than 100 years ago now. We're at 2019. This is that little church that sits down on highway, and we're going to look at this area. We'll see things on this street. These are houses that are still here. These two houses, I believe, were there when the mapping was done in 1916. And you see the church down at the end of the street. And a larger picture of it. And in this, we're going to enlarge things so we can go down the street and see things that were there. This was a confectionery, a newsstand. This little building was a grocery store. Here was a doctor's office. It's surprising how things change. Here is a 5 and 10 cent store. Here's a drugstore. And here, of all things, was a movie. There was a movie house in Yukon once upon a time. And right beside the movies was a cobbler, a guy that fixed your shoes. Across the street was a grocer. It always surprises me how things change and people just somehow manage to forget about it. Now, we're looking down the street again. And this empty lot we're looking at, this is where the movies were. Someone said that there was a fire in Yukon, and that's how the movies went. Now this is the street we were looking at. We're going to come over at this side and look at it. Again, we have to enlarge things a bit. Here's another general store. Here's a larger general store. General store just meant a place that sold everything. General store again. And in 1916, the school was there. And it continues to be there. It sits there looking like it's waiting for somebody to come and take care of it. The old expression, good bones, comes to mind. A building that, you know, still has structural integrity, but needs to be taken care of. Now we look at another map which will help us to understand some of what's going on. Over here in the yellow area, that was the mine itself. 2 in the kind of pinkish area. This was what I call the coal patch town. You know, the houses that the mine built. Number 3 is what we were just looking at, and this next yellow area is what we'll see next. And we look down the street again, Highway Street, another general store. Here's a clothing store. Groceries and furniture here. Another clothing store. It's surprising. Well, in a way it's not surprising because a lot of things have happened. One thing that happened was automobiles came along and people could go outside of town and buy things somewhere else. And so all these little stores were no longer important or needed. I mean, the malls came along, which was a big deal to really eliminate a lot of the small family stores that happened to spring up. Here was a store where they sold furniture, and on the other side was a bank. Another grocery store. That's the building where there used to be a bank. Now down the street a bit, you can see the firehouse down here. This is that larger map that I put together. I'm going to zoom it out a little bit so we can see things. Right in here is that building that was once a bank. And we come down to the point where the Central Hotel still sits. The Central Hotel seems to be a good name for it because it's right at a place where you have all these roads coming together, meaning it's a central point. And this road once had the name Keller. Keller was the name of the plan of lots down this way, the way it was filed in the courthouse. We get a look at that corner where I said it looked like a central point. And there's the firehouse and the Central Hotel. I'm looking down the road. And this map shows us up here at the top. This is that central point again, and there's the Central Hotel. And we're going to enlarge this once more to look at some of the buildings and some of the things that were going on. Again, we're going to see these little stores that aren't there anymore. General Store and Meats. This is a vacant store here. It was a store, but it's no longer. This mapping is from 1916. This, in 1916, was a blacksmith shop and a wagon shop. Right next door, you have another general store. Down here, you have a paint shop. And here was a barn sitting right in town. And as we come to the end of another map, we think of all the things that aren't there anymore. This is Yukon, right in the middle here. Just over to the west a little bit, there remains something that is now it's a historical landmark registered with the National Register of Historic Sites. It's the covered bridge. Going over Sewickley Creek. That was built about 1850 by a guy named Daniel McCain. He was the guy responsible for designing it and having a crew of guys to build it. It has since been rebuilt and in 1979 put on the National Register of Historic Sites. And it is, at this point, the only covered bridge left in Westmoreland County. There were once a lot more than that. And I think we've come to the end of this story of Yukon. And I want to say thanks for coming along in a little journey. And so long.